All right, squad. So today I want to just quickly show you how you can build a custom Docker image. Docker is a really useful tool for basically, like to think of it, it's like when you have your computer and you want to install pieces of software, let's call it, you want to install maybe libvips or different libraries on your own computer so that you can run your dev environment. Docker, we can do the same thing, and then we can deploy that image into a server. All the dependencies are already set up. So I'm going to just quickly run you through how you can build your own custom one, and let's dive in. Okay, so firstly, if you're not familiar with Docker, you can just jump onto docker.com and have a look. But basically the way I think about it, like I mentioned before, is a custom operating system. It's a container, but we can install dependencies here so that we can run our application in any environment. You can just chuck a Docker container up to any different server. We don't have to install things on the server itself because it's all installed inside of our Docker image, and then from an image you run a container. So you can see here the way they talk about themselves is Docker helps developers build, share, and run applications anywhere without environment configuration and management. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to do and set up a custom Docker image. So the first thing that we want to do here is clean this nonsense up. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new directory, which will just be custom Docker image. And then we're going to jump into that directory and then open up VS Code in there, okay? So let's have a look here. So we've currently got absolutely nothing. So what we want to do here is, we can do it in the command line, probably for easy. We're just going to go touch to create a new file, and then we're going to go Docker file, all right? I'm going to hit that, and now you can see here inside of our repo, we have our Docker file. Let me bump that up as well so everyone can see. All right. So a Docker file is pretty simple, but what I'll do is I will show you inside of the Rails deploy. I'll give you an example of what is currently installed with Rails. So this is what we're getting with Rails, right? So I'll just open that up. So it's basically just defining the syntax of what Dockerfile version we're using. And then they're setting an argument. So these special little commands here are Docker specific features. So an arg is we're defining basically an environment variable that we can then reference later down in the piece, okay? Sometimes what you'll see is some Docker files have all of these listed at the top, so it's easy for maintenance, and they're just injected wherever they need them. So the first part of this is we are grabbing the base image. So generally when we use Docker, we will be starting from some sort of base image, right? You can start from scratch, literally nothing installed. But in our instance, we want to start from the Ruby version or the Ruby image. And what you can do, another really interesting tip with Docker, is if you go to the Docker Hub, so it's Docker Hub here, and this is where you can see public images. And if we search for the Ruby images, here's the official Ruby images. And then what we can see inside, so when that loads, hopefully it does, we can see that it'll be Ruby and then 321. So basically what this is turning into is this. Then we grab that and put that there. So we're looking at this Ruby 321 Slim. So you can see here the Ruby, this is the official Ruby image. Now you can see all the different tags. So with Docker, we can create tags and we can push up tags, and these are different versions of our file. So this is useful also when using custom Docker images. So if you create, let's say you created a version of your Docker image that had a certain set of dependencies, you can push that up, and then you could build a new, call it your staging image that you want to test these new dependencies on. So it allows us to do that. So what you can see here, this is looking for 321. So there's already a newer Ruby version, 330. So it'll be 321, which looks like it doesn't even exist here in the main supported tags anymore. So it's actually already a deprecated image. But you can see here, so it'd be like let's use a different one that's using Slim. So here's would be a 3.1 Slim. All right, so you can find it here. So this, basically this piece here, that is what you would find in here in the tag. That would be the tag. So that's the image name and then this is the tag. All right. So that's what we're creating here. And now the piece that I'm trying to look at, what I've noticed is when we're deploying a fresh every time and it doesn't actually have a successful build, none of this is getting cached, and it's this piece here. So what you can see is doing this is a Linux command apt-get, and that's its package manager, and then it's installing these tools: build essential, git, libpqdev, libvips, and package config. And now these things can take a bit of time to install. So we don't really want to be doing this. And I mean, Docker does have caching, so it can cache steps. But what I've noticed is, depending on the tooling you're using, it may not be caching, and it may, if something changes, it's not actually doing what we need, and it's just slowing down our actual deploy. And then here you can see there's another one here. So they're running this now inside of the base image. So they're installing the Postgres client, libvips, and curl inside of the base. All right. So what we want to try and do here is set up a Docker image that we can use from and use our custom Docker image. So to get started, let's set up this our Docker file. So the first thing is we're going to do is just do that syntax command. Let me just see, why are you being like this? Okay, yep, that's just throwing a thing. And then what we're going to do is the same thing here. I'm just wondering if this is reused. This arg doesn't seem to be reused, so you could technically hard code that. But what we'll do is we'll just use this here. All right, and what we're going to do now is we're going to actually go and start from, so let's get rid of this guy. We're going to start from the latest one. So these are all previews. So 3.3 is a preview. So it's maybe 3.22 slim. All right. So we click on this. So you can see this is what's inside of the Docker image itself. So you can see, so that's starting from the operating system, Debian, and then they're adding and installing a whole bunch of things like libssl and all the different Ruby versions, and then they're actually compiling Ruby. So there's a whole bunch of work we don't want to do, so that's why you can build on top of this image. So we're going to use 3.22 slim. So let's go in here, we're going to go 3.22, and that will be match 3.22 slim as base. All right? Sweet. Now, that's pretty much all we need right now, except for maybe what we can do is let's install some packages here, just so we can do another step. Okay? So we're going to run that. Now what we need to actually do is on your operating system, you do need to install Docker. So there is a utility you can download. So we just want personal. Okay? So you want to download the Docker Desktop Personal. Costs $0. So that's good. So we can start now. That's just going to ask you to sign in. All right. So I'm logged into Docker Hub, but now we need to download Docker. So we're going to go download Docker. So that's in docs.docker.com/getdocker. We're going to get, for me, it's Docker Desktop for Mac, but it might be for Windows or Linux, depending on what you use. I'm using Apple Silicon. All right, so we'll download that and install it, and we get good to go. It's a pretty big download, so it might take you a bit of time, but there are install instructions just straight underneath the file. All right, so just follow those and install Docker. Also, make sure you have fewer than 250 employees and less than $10 million in annual revenue. All right, once you've installed, you'll get this little guy, sign in. All right, follow these steps. Okay, here we go. So this is Docker Desktop. So you need to have this running whenever you want to do things like the command line. And you'll see this little, in Mac, you can't actually see it in my screen, but there's a little Docker whale with his little containers on top, like a container ship. And they basically give you a run through of everything here. So what we're busy doing is we're creating an image. All right. So let's move back so I can close that now. All right. So now what we want to do is we want to use our little file. Let's just check if Docker is actually installed in here. Docker. Yep, looks like it. Sweet. So here, so the command we're looking for now is the docker build command, all right? So we're gonna use that command to build our image. To run our Docker file, or to build our image, I should say, using our Docker file, we're gonna go docker build dot, which is the current directory. We're inside the custom Docker image. And then we're gonna tag it. And let's just check the tag flag. Is that sitting here? So in the docs, you can see it here. We can tag it with our name. So actually, might put that before the dot. And we're going to tag this custom image for now. Right? So let's just hit that. And now you can see what it's doing. So it's found the Docker, it's looking for Docker ignore, which we don't actually have. And now it's resolving the image. So it's actually fetching the Ruby 2.2 image. You can see it here from Docker, and it's getting that. So that's all been pre-built. We don't have to build that image again. And now you can see here, it's running our command. See? So now imagine if you were running this image for the first time somewhere. The computer or the server running, which is usually when we're deploying, we're going to be using pretty hobby projects. It'll be pretty small and slow hardware. So this process takes a long time, right, to build and do all this stuff. So what you can see here is we've just run this command, and now we've written it, and we've created a new image, and that's its SHA hash there. Let's go to the dashboard. You can now see inside of here, we have our custom image. All right, so we've now created a custom image. It's 645 megabytes in size. And now we can also run this image. So let's go and give that a go. So to run our image, we go docker run, and then we do a little hyphen, we go IT, and that's, I believe, is interactive. Let me just find that for you. So I is interactive. And then T, allocate a sudo TTY. All right, so that's what I always run. So you can see here, docker run IT. Now we're gonna run IT, and then we're gonna say custom image, because that's the name of our image file, okay? We're gonna hit enter. Now what you're gonna see is we're running inside of our image, but we're running inside of IRB. Now why is that? So the reason we're running inside of IRB is because you can see here inside of the Ruby 3.2 Slim file that the command that it runs is IRB. So that's the same as if you were running terminal and you just wrote IRB, you would then get that. Okay, so you can see that ran the default command. But now what I want to do is I don't want to run IRB. I want to just see and double check that everything was installed, that we installed. So what we're going to run is we're going to run docker run hyphen IT space hyphen entry point bin bash, because we want to run bash, and then we're going to give the name of the file. We're going to hit enter. Now you can see here we're inside of root, so that's the user of this image. Now that's actually the container, sorry. That will be the container running. E6D. So you can see here we're running in Docker desktop. You can see that we're running the container, and that's the hash there, FD, and that's what we're running here. So that's how we can figure out where we're actually in. So we're the user at that image container. Okay. So now what we want to do is just say, now we're inside of a Linux machine, right? So we can go list, we can do all the stuff, we can see all the things. Okay, so the easiest way I think to show if we actually have installed something is we just run this command again. And you can see here that it's actually using libvips42. But then it says build essentials already newest version, git's new version, lib is the newest version, libvips42 is the newest version, package config is already the newest version. All right, so we've installed all those things, so that's just a sanity check. Now what we can do is we can actually just do docker push. I think you actually have to create this. I'm just gonna go custom image, public, yeah. Okay. So I got that command. So it's docker push, and then you need your name, your username here, and then custom image. And the tag name is just, let's just go latest. Okay, so we need to also just build this properly. So we actually have to go docker. Okay, yep. So we just have to tag our image. So all we have to do, so we can go docker tag, and then we're going to go custom image. Right, so docker, it's me. Custom image is the name of our current one. And we're going to push it to kgrief custom image, or tag it like that. And then we're going to go docker push. We're going to push this image here. Now hopefully that works. See this pushing it up, and it pushes all the pieces through. Just let that finish. All right, so we have finished the build, the push, and now you can see here's our digest. And now when we refresh, inside of Docker Hub, we can see we have our latest image right there, and it was pushed, and then it shows you all the commands that are there. All right, so that's all the image layers. And then, let's just see here, if we click this, so you see here's where's we getting our custom, that's our custom command. So these are all the commands for the Ruby image that happen. There's the last image, the last layer from the Ruby image, and then our custom one there. All right, so we've got our custom Docker image now, and now what I just want to quickly show you is how you would use that. So very simply, if we were to change the original file here, what we would do is we could just change this. So we actually wouldn't need this anymore. But we would just say registry.docker.com, and we would grab our file, which is here. So we want to use custom image, and it would just be latest, right? So we would just have, I don't even know if you need to do this, to be honest, but we can just do kgrief.com, and this would just be latest. And then the way we can just test this quickly is if we jump into cd rails deploy, and then we do docker build, and we're going to just tag this as Rails deploy, always the small thing, so we're going to tag it as Rails deploy. Now let's see if I've done everything correctly. Nope. So docker.i lastest, yeah, because that doesn't exist, obviously. Yeah, dingus. All right, there we go. Okay, so you see what happened there? We just grabbed from Docker latest, and we got everything here. So what are we saying here? This is just a lock file problem. Your Ruby is 322. Okay, so now what that is actually, it means everything's working, which is good. So if you remember, we made our version 322 here, and then this old guy is looking for 321. So that's all good. That's an easy fix. But what I just wanted to illustrate here was we are now using our custom image, which means it has this installed already. So this is just a quick run through of how you can actually build a custom Docker image with all the libraries you need and set up the environment exactly how you need it. And then you can just grab that image wherever you deploy your app. So we'll touch on this later down the road when we're deploying a Rails app, and we can just grab from that image pre-built and just go. So I'll probably do something like this. It'll create a base image with all of the things like libvips and any dependencies that I'll need when building Rails apps. And this could be the same for anything. It could be the same for Node. If you wanted to install a specific Node version, or if there's some specific tooling you needed, you're working in a Linux environment, you might need libvips for image manipulation, anything like that. You can install it here in your Docker image. You build it once, and then any of your apps moving forward can just pull that image straight in. And that's how we can do it quite simply. So you can see it's a very quick process. And you can run all this stuff locally, make sure it all builds and compiles, push that image up. The next step that to take this further is you can actually build a let's call it a GitHub action or a Bitbucket pipeline, so that when you push new Docker code, like your Docker file code up, it actually in the pipeline will do this build and publish from there. So you don't have to push it from your computer. And that's probably better if you have a bigger team, right? So if you have multiple people working on this thing and anyone wants to make changes to the Docker file, they can push the changes through, it then builds and publishes it from there. So hopefully that was helpful, and catch you on the next one.